They were the pride of American railroads, fast, beautiful, and decades ahead of their time. But one by one, they vanished, undone by bad timing, poor planning, and impossible dreams. These are the 10 American trains that were great but failed. Number 1. The Aerotrain, 1956. In the mid-1950s, when America's railroads were losing ground to the booming automobile and airline industries, General Motors decided to revolutionize train travel. Their answer was the Aerotrain, a sleek, futuristic passenger train that looked like it came straight out of a science fiction movie. Designed by GM's styling division under Chuck Jordan, the Aerotrain embodied the optimism of post-war America. Its streamlined nose resembled a rocket, and its silver bullet-like cars promised modernity and speed. Even the name Aerotrain evoked images of effortless, jet-age travel. GM used lightweight materials, bus-style passenger cars, and a compact diesel engine to make it both affordable and efficient. Railroads like Union Pacific, New York Central, and Pennsylvania Railroad eagerly tested it, hoping it could attract passengers back to rail travel. On paper, it seemed perfect, fast, light, and futuristic. But reality hit hard. The bus-style suspension made the ride noisy and uncomfortable, especially at high speeds. Passengers often compared it to riding inside a tin can. The engine, while efficient, struggled on steep grades, and maintenance crews found it difficult to service the experimental components. Despite its stylish looks, the Aerotrain's light construction couldn't handle long-distance service. After only a few years in operation, most railroads retired it. GM produced only 2 full sets, both ending up in museums, one at the National Railroad Museum in Wisconsin and another at the National Museum of Transportation in Missouri. The Aerotrain failed commercially, but it succeeded as an icon of American industrial design. It represented the last gasp of railroad glamour before the automobile fully took over. The Aerotrain remains a beautiful failure, a bold experiment that tried to merge speed, style, and affordability, but proved that looks alone can't keep a dream on track. Number 2. The TurboTrain, 1968. The United Aircraft TurboTrain was one of the boldest engineering experiments in American rail history. Developed in the 1960s, it was the nation's first attempt at high-speed rail using gas turbine engines, similar to those found in aircraft. The goal was simple: make trains fast enough to compete with planes and cars. The TurboTrain featured lightweight aluminum construction, articulated cars, meaning they shared wheels between sections, and a tilting mechanism that allowed it to take curves at high speeds. Its turbine engines gave it an incredible top speed, 170 miles per hour during test runs, setting a North American record. It looked futuristic, sounded like a jet, and promised to usher in a new era of fast, modern rail travel. When it entered service with Amtrak in 1971, passengers were amazed by its speed and sleek design. The interior was modern and bright, offering a level of comfort that traditional trains couldn't match. However, the very technology that made it so impressive also became its downfall. The turbine engines were incredibly fuel-hungry and expensive to maintain. At low speeds, they were inefficient, and turbine parts wore out faster than diesel components. Worse yet, the TurboTrain required well-maintained, straight tracks to reach its potential, something the aging U.S. rail network couldn't provide. Track roughness caused stability issues, and frequent mechanical breakdowns frustrated both passengers and crews. By the late 1970s, Amtrak had retired the fleet. Despite its short life, the TurboTrain's influence was undeniable. It demonstrated the possibilities of high-speed travel long before America was ready for it. The TurboTrain's failure wasn't due to poor design, but to poor timing. It was a machine decades ahead of the infrastructure it ran on. A glimpse of the future derailed by the past. Number 3. The Pioneer Zephyr II, 1936. The Pioneer Zephyr name became legendary in American rail history. The original Zephyr of 1934 stunned the world with its record-setting dawn-to-dusk dash from Denver to Chicago in just over 13 hours. 2 years later, its successor, the Pioneer Zephyr II, was introduced. taking everything good about the original and making it even better. The new Zephyr featured longer cars, improved aerodynamics, and more powerful diesel-electric engines. It was one of the earliest trains to prove that diesel could outperform steam, offering cleaner operation, faster speeds, and lower costs. Its streamlined stainless steel body shimmered in sunlight, and its futuristic design inspired everything from car grilles to Art Deco posters. But while it was an engineering masterpiece, the Zephyr II arrived during one of the toughest times in U.S. history, the Great Depression. Few Americans could afford long-distance rail travel, no matter how luxurious it was. Many railroads were already struggling financially, and competition from automobiles and buses was rising fast. The Zephyr II's greatest obstacle wasn't performance, it was timing. It was built to serve a shrinking market. Despite its ability to run efficiently and its impressive speed, the public simply wasn't traveling. Railroads began cutting passenger routes, and the Zephyr's brilliance went largely unnoticed. Eventually, the Zephyr II was retired quietly, remembered only by rail enthusiasts. Yet its influence lived on. Its design language shaped later streamliners like the California Zephyr and the Super Chief. The Pioneer Zephyr II was a marvel that came too early, a technological success born into an economic disaster. It didn't fail because it was bad. It failed because the world wasn't ready for what it represented, the future of train travel. Number 4. The Metroliner, 1969. Long before Amtrak became a household name, the Metroliner was the United States' first genuine attempt at high-speed rail. Developed in the late 1960s by Penn Central, the Metroliner was meant to connect New York City and Washington, D.C. in under 3 hours, competing directly with short-haul airlines. The Metroliner was sleek, electric, and fast. It was built by the Budd Company and could hit 125 mph, a major milestone for American passenger service. Its interiors were bright and futuristic, offering quiet, air-conditioned comfort at a time when most other trains still felt old-fashioned. The government and media hailed it as the dawn of a new era in American rail travel. But behind the marketing glow, reality was messy. The Metroliner's electronics were notoriously unreliable, suffering frequent power surges and brake system failures. The tracks it ran on, owned by Penn Central, were decades old and not designed for such speeds. Rough rides and constant maintenance issues plagued the service. When Amtrak took over in 1971, they tried to keep the Metroliner running, but reliability remained a major issue. Delays became common, and expensive repairs drained resources. By the late 1970s, the Metroliner was gradually replaced by conventional electric locomotives pulling standard Amfleet cars. Yet, the Metroliner's failure paved the way for the future. Its legacy directly led to Amtrak's Acela Express, which would carry the torch decades later. The Metroliner was a bold leap toward modern rail in America, but it was like running a Ferrari on gravel roads. It proved America could build a fast train. It just didn't have the tracks to run it properly. Number 5. The M497 Black Beetle, 1966. Among all American train experiments, few were as daring or as bizarre as the New York Central M497, better known as the Black Beetle. In 1966, engineers decided to see just how fast a train could go on standard tracks. Their idea: mount 2 jet engines from a B-36 bomber on top of a regular Budd rail car. The result was part science experiment, part engineering madness. With its black paint, pointed nose, and roaring jets, the M497 looked like something from a Cold War movie. During tests on a straight stretch of track between Butler, Indiana and Stryker, Ohio, the Black Beetle hit an astonishing 110 mph, a record that still stands for conventional rail in North America. The test proved that high-speed rail was possible in the U.S., even on existing infrastructure. But that's where the success ended. The M497 was loud, deafeningly loud, and the jet exhaust damaged nearby structures and melted ballast along the track. It consumed fuel at an incredible rate. and the cost of operating such a machine would have been astronomical. The Black Beetle was never intended for regular service. It was a research project, a publicity stunt to show what American engineering could achieve. After the tests, the jet engines were removed, and the railcar returned to normal duty. Despite its impracticality, the M497 became a legend. It proved that American innovation could still make headlines, even if it wasn't commercially viable. The Black Beetle was an experiment that roared too loud and too fast, but it showed that ambition, even when it fails, can make history. Number 6. The AEM-7 electric locomotive. 1980. When Amtrak introduced the AEM-7 electric locomotive in 1980, it quickly became a quiet hero of American railroading. Based on Sweden's proven Acela RC4 design, the AEM-7 was compact, box-shaped, and not particularly flashy. But beneath its simple exterior lay remarkable power and reliability. Capable of producing 7,000 horsepower, this small machine could haul long passenger trains at speeds up to 125 miles per hour, something few locomotives in the world could match at the time. For over 3 decades, the AEM-7 powered Amtrak's flagship services in the Northeast Corridor, the busy stretch between Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. It was fast, efficient, and durable. Rail fans affectionately nicknamed it the Swedish meatball, a nod to its origins and its compact, tough build. The AEM-7 proved to be one of Amtrak's most successful locomotives, outperforming many of its predecessors and successors in terms of reliability. It consumed less energy, required less maintenance than older electrics, and served as the backbone of America's busiest rail corridor. Yet despite its excellent performance, its legacy was cut short. By the early 2010s, Amtrak began phasing out the AEM-7s in favor of the Siemens ACS-64 City Sprinter. The decision was made not because the AEM-7s were obsolete, they were still working fine, but because modernization and standardization demanded newer tech. Many argued the AEM-7 could have been rebuilt or upgraded for another decade of dependable service. The last AEM-7 was retired in 2016, marking the end of an era. For many engineers and passengers, this locomotive symbolized everything good about practical design, reliability over luxury, strength over showmanship. Its failure wasn't mechanical, it was historical. The AEM-7 was too good to be replaced, but too old to be modern. It remains a quiet legend, a machine that did its job perfectly, but faded away before it ever truly got the recognition it deserved. Number 7. The Milwaukee Road Hiawatha, 1935 to 1971. Few trains in American history embodied speed and style like the Hiawatha of the Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Paul and Pacific Railroad, commonly known as the Milwaukee Road. Introduced in 1935, the Hiawatha was a masterpiece of industrial design, a high-speed streamliner capable of sustained runs over 100-mile pairs with beautifully streamlined locomotives and luxurious interiors that made passengers feel like they were gliding through the future. The Hiawatha route stretched from Chicago to the Twin Cities, later extending to the Pacific Northwest. The trains featured skytop observation cars, stunning glass lounges designed by famed industrial designer Brooks Stevens. These cars offered panoramic views of the American landscape and became icons of Art Deco-era train design. Everything about the Hiawatha exuded prestige and class. The locomotives that powered it, including the Class A 442 steam engines, were marvels of engineering. They were capable of maintaining 100-mile-per-hour runs for long distances, a feat unmatched in the 1930s. Later, the Hiawatha was upgraded to diesel power, maintaining its reputation as one of America's finest passenger trains. But despite its success and elegance, the Hiawatha couldn't escape the economic realities that hit all passenger railroads after World War II. Air travel became faster and cheaper, highways improved, and private car ownership soared. The Milwaukee Road began losing passengers and revenue. Even the Hiawatha's speed and luxury couldn't attract enough riders to stay profitable. In the 1960s, services were cut back, and by 1971, the Hiawatha was discontinued when Amtrak took over most passenger routes. Ironically, Amtrak still uses the name Hiawatha for a much shorter route between Chicago and Milwaukee, a faint echo of what was once a transcontinental legend. The Milwaukee Road Hiawatha failed not because it wasn't great, but because greatness couldn't compete with the jet age. It remains a symbol of an America that once believed in railroads as the future of travel, before that future changed forever. Number 8. The Turboliner. 1975. The Amtrak Turboliner was supposed to be the rebirth of high-speed passenger trains in America. After the failure of the 1960s TurboTrain, Amtrak imported a new generation of gas turbine-powered trains from France in the mid-1970s. These were the RTG and RTL Turboliners, based on the successful French TGV prototypes that were revolutionizing European rail. The Turboliners looked sleek and modern. Painted in bold orange and red, they symbolized a new era for Amtrak. Inside, they offered quiet, comfortable seating and a smooth ride. The turbines provided quick acceleration and allowed the trains to cruise at 125 miles per hour, faster than any other passenger service in the US at the time. At first, they were a hit. Riders on routes like New York-Albany and Chicago-Milwaukee loved the modern feel. The trains turned heads and gave Amtrak much-needed positive publicity, but the success was short-lived. The same technology that made the Turboliner fast also made it extremely inefficient. Gas turbine engines, while powerful, consumed large amounts of fuel, a problem that became catastrophic when the 1970s oil crisis struck. Operating costs soared. The turbines also required specialized maintenance that Amtrak's facilities weren't equipped to handle. Parts had to be imported from France, and repairs became time-consuming and expensive. The trains were gradually sidelined in favor of conventional diesel-electric equipment. A revival attempt in the early 2000s by New York State failed when refurbished turboliners faced repeated technical issues and cost overruns. They were quickly pulled from service once again. The Turboliner had everything: beauty, comfort, speed. But like so many American train experiments, it was undone by timing, economics, and infrastructure. It wasn't a bad train. It was simply a European idea that didn't fit America's fuel prices or maintenance realities. Number 9. The PRR T1 Duplex, 1942. When the Pennsylvania Railroad introduced the T1 Duplex steam locomotive, it was hailed as the pinnacle of steam power. With its futuristic streamlining by Raymond Loewy and a complex four-cylinder duplex drive system, the T1 looked like a machine from another world. It was designed to haul the PRR's fastest passenger trains at over 120 miles per hour, making it one of the most advanced steam locomotives ever built. The T1 used a duplex configuration, splitting the drive wheels into two sets to reduce wheel slip and distribute power evenly. In theory, this meant smoother acceleration and less wear. In practice, however, the T1 was incredibly temperamental. The high-speed design caused severe wheel slip if the throttle was opened too aggressively, and inexperienced engineers often damaged the wheels or drive rods during starts. Maintenance crews found the T1 complex and difficult to service. Its intricate machinery required careful tuning, and its mechanical systems were more fragile than the simpler steam locomotives it was meant to replace. Worse, as the T1 entered service, diesel-electric locomotives were beginning to dominate American railroads. Diesels were easier to operate, cheaper to maintain, and more fuel-efficient. They could be started quickly without long warm-up times and didn't require water stops. The T1, for all its beauty and power, represented the last stand of steam, and it lost. By the late 1940s, the Pennsylvania Railroad began scrapping the T1 fleet. None survived, though in a remarkable twist, a group of rail enthusiasts and engineers is building a brand new replica T1 today, proving how much admiration still exists for this locomotive. The T1 Duplex failed because it was too advanced for its time, an over-engineered masterpiece born at the dawn of a simpler diesel-powered age. It remains a tragic symbol of innovation that arrived 1 decade too late. Number 10. The Acela Express, 2000. When Amtrak launched the Acela Express in 2000, it was marketed as America's first true high-speed train, a sleek, tilting electric train capable of reaching 150 miles per hour. It connected Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C., aiming to rival Japan's Shinkansen and France's TGV. The Acela had everything going for it on paper: modern design, luxury interiors, Wi-Fi, power outlets, and smooth acceleration. It quickly became Amtrak's most profitable service and was beloved by business travelers. But despite its promise, the Acela never lived up to its full potential. The biggest issue wasn't the train itself, it was the infrastructure. The tracks along the Northeast Corridor were old and full of tight curves, bridges and tunnels, built over a century ago. These limitations meant that the Acela could only reach its top speed on a few short stretches of track. Most of the time it averaged around 80 to 90 miles per hour, far slower than true high-speed systems abroad. Additionally, the Acela's tilting system, designed to help it maintain speed through curves, often malfunctioned. Its heavy, overbuilt body, required to meet U.S. crash safety standards, made it slower and more energy-hungry than its European counterparts. Maintenance costs were extremely high, and delays became frequent. In short, the Acela was a world-class train trapped on third-class tracks. It symbolized both the potential and the failure of American high-speed rail. 2 decades later, Amtrak is replacing it with the Acela II, a Velia Liberty, promising improved speed, efficiency, and reliability. But the legacy of the first Acela remains bittersweet. A train that was great in design but failed to deliver on its promise because America simply never built the infrastructure it deserved. The Acela's story is not one of technological failure, but of missed opportunity. The right train in the wrong system, forever held back by the rails it rode. From jet-powered locomotives to elegant streamliners, these trains defined what innovation once meant in America. They showed us greatness and taught us that not every legend survives. Which one do you think deserves a comeback? Let us know in the comments and subscribe for more stories of power, steel, and forgotten giants of the tracks.